Hello, welcome to today's immigration tidbit. Well, I'm on the bike today, so we get the exercise and the video. So, non-immigrant visas, a lot of people confuse that with immigrant visas. So what is the difference? Well, a non-immigrant visa is really what it says. Immigrant is when someone wants to come here and become a lawful permanent resident and then maybe eventually a U.S. citizen. They want to stay here permanently, okay? They have that intent to remain here forever. A non-immigrant visa, on the other hand, is a visa that has a definite term. Your intention is not to stay here permanently, and you are intending on returning back to your home country once the non-immigrant visa is completed. So, what types of non-immigrant visas are there? Well, of course, there's work non-immigrant visas, such as the H-1B, the H-3, the H-2B, the O-1, the P-1, all these things. So let me give some examples. Like, for example, H-1B usually is issued for 3 years. Okay, there's some ways that you can get it extended year after year, depending, but more or less 3 years. The H-3 deals with people coming to be trained, and generally that depends how long the training plan is, maybe a year and a half. Okay, the H-2B, those are temporary, like really temporary, like seasonal. Okay, so they come during summer hours at a camp, or they do a one-time thing, like a company is changing its accounting system and they have to do all kinds of accounting stuff. So there's that. Then there's the P1 and the O1s that deal with extraordinary alien petitions, or actually deals with music groups, things like that. And that could be the length of the events of why the person's coming in, or an athlete, things like that. So each one has a different purpose. Then there's like the F1, that's student, and that doesn't have a definite time, but it has an end time, and that usually comes in its duration of status. So that's when you come here for the time of the degree, however long that takes, and then you would go home after that. So as you can see, non-immigrant visas vary widely as to when and how long they are. Like a B2 visitor, generally that's 6 months. B1, that's coming for specified purposes for various business reasons, and sometimes that's only a month. Okay, so there's a big difference between non-immigrant and immigrant. In fact, minus some very specific exceptions, which would be the L1, the H-1B, the O-1, you have to prove your non-immigrant intent when you come into the United States for a non-immigrant visa, or they're going to reject you. That means that if they don't believe that your intent is temporary, that you plan on staying for the duration only of whatever visa you have, but that you're going to stay here forever, or you're going to plan on doing things to stay here forever, then they'll reject you and they'll send you back. Okay, can you imagine coming halfway across the world after having everything approved only to be denied at the port of entry because they don't believe you have non-immigrant intent? So that doesn't mean, that you can't later change your mind. I mean, I know a lot of people watch and go, well, I know someone who came on a visitor visa and then they, got a student visa, a work permit, and ultimately married, got the green card, and, now are a U.S. citizen. So what you're saying is not true. Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. They can change their mind. At the point of entry, they have to have the intent, the non-immigrant intent. Okay? So if they come on a visitor visa, for example, and they fully intend on visiting New York and, Statue of Liberty and whatever, when they enter, that's fine. But then let's say they're here and there just happens to be a, an interview or a job offer or something that pops up, or better yet, let's say that they're here and they love it, and let's say they love New York and they decide they want to go to school. Okay, so they can file a B1 to an F1, or sorry, a B2 to an F1 change of status, because once they were here and visiting, they loved it and decided they wanted to go to vacation. That is after acquired intent, which is fine. And then they can successfully get the F1. And then once on F1, they might go to school for 4 years, get a degree. And still, when they get the F1 in the papers, they still need to show non-immigrant intent. But then let's say during the school years, towards the end, when they do OPT, which is optional practical training, let's say they love working in New York. I'm just using New York, for example. And so then they file to do a change of status from F1 to H1B. Let's say they got a degree in finance. Okay. Then when they get the H1B, believe it or not, they don't have to prove non-immigrant intent, because that's the law. They can have what's called dual intent with the H1B. So they're on H1B, and then they can file the perm. Perm ultimately leads to the green card, and then they would get the green card based on employment, and then a few years later, they can apply for citizenship. So you see, what I said was accurate, in that you must have non-immigrant intent with a non-immigrant visa upon entering the U.S., but that can change, and if it does change, then you can do change of status and stay here way longer, if it's done right, and if it's approved, than what the original non-immigrant visa was. Okay? So, that's that. So, keep in mind that there's a whole plethora of different applications for immigrant visas, including employment, family, religious-based, investment-based, asylum-based, just a whole world of it. And then there's alphabet soup for non-immigrant visas that allow you to apply for a wide variety of non-immigrant visas. I can tell you right off the bat, without even telling you what they are, just the ones that pop in my head here. There's the B1, B2, C1, D, E1, E2, F1, and I'm not doing derivatives, like family members, just the main ones. There's the G1, the H1B, H2, H3, there's I, J1, K1, L1, M1. There's not an N. There is no N. There's the O1, P1, Q1, R1, S1, T1, U1. There's no V. There's the WV. There's no X, and there's no Z. Okay? So there you have it. Those are all the non-immigrant visas, at least the ones that are in my head, of which you will note there's a lot. Did I tell you, did I say the Q? Because there's also the Q. Believe it or not. Okay? So if you know all of these non-immigrant visas, then if you want to come in the U.S., there might be a very good way of doing it, which is why you need to see a qualified immigration attorney, because, you might say, well, I don't want to visit and I don't know how else to get there. Okay, well, I might be able to tell you. Okay, so there you go.